Hey everyone, I hope that you're well and that you've had an amazing week. I'm here with the Womanhood Series EP.2, where we will be talking about intergenerational relationships. When I say relationships, when I said that, I was like, huh? Intergenerational relationships, basically from a mother to a daughter, an auntie to a niece, intergenerational relationships, but regards to conversations. Are we having conversations? Hello, everyone. Welcome, Lucy. I've got the real TM joined. Hey, sorry if I don't know your name. Hello, Miss Unique. Hey, guys. So I'm Siobhan. I will be your host for today. I'm going to get Lucy will be joining us today, and we're going to be talking on the topic of menopause. Hey, Lucy.
Hey.
How are you
You okay?
doing?
Yeah,
Yeah, good. How are you?
yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Awesome. Awesome. So I was just informing the audience on what our topic is on today, which is intergenerational conversations,
Yeah.
and it's on the topic of menopause.
Hmm.
Tendai be joining us separately, or is she going to come on the video with you?
She's going to be joining separately, but she can join the video with us.
No, that's fine. As long as what's her name on Instagram?
The real
Oh, it's the real TM. So it is Tendai. Hey T. Let me see if I can add you as well. Um, let's see how we do. So you know what? Me and Tendai are quite funny, right? Because I say how old I am and how she's cussing me because I'm probably on Facebook, yeah. But see, it says you've not got the latest version of Instagram. That's what it says on your phone. It says that it says
Oh
that
wow.
you need to have the latest version of hold on, I'll read it out. It says the real TM will need the latest version of Instagram to join.
Oh, okay.
Love you, T. Love you. So I mean, T, if you want to do that now, you can, and I can interview your mum for a little bit. And if you send me another request, then I'll try and add you again once you've done it. If not, just pop in the video with your mum when you're ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Miss
Please
Lucy,
do that.
Lucy. So, the menopause.
Yeah.
First of all, introduce yourself a bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go right on in.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Lucy or Nontando, which is a Zimbabwean name, Nontando Lucy. I am a mother of one 18-year-old young woman now. Um, I I live in Stone. I'm an enthusiast for having conversations with our children, but female, I would say, especially with our girls. And yeah, just having, I guess, I'm an advocate for, I'm very passionate about just having, talking more, really. I don't,
Mhm.
yeah, and then we kind of seem to flip and flap experiences in life. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's me.
I love that. I love that. So, talking menopause then, with yourself, what did you know of the menopause?
Mm.
And um, that can be directly and indirectly, because obviously, as we grow up, we could maybe hear conversations
Mm.
and have our own idea. Hold on, real time wants to be, yeah, perfect. Um, we can hear things, and there's a difference between that and obviously knowing what's going on. So, what's your understanding? Hey, T, looking absolutely
Hi.
gorgeous. Hey, gorgeous. Yeah. So, what's your experience of the menopause directly and indirectly?
Um, Directly, I would say that I am I'm in the phase of life right now where I'm experiencing symptoms of I would say the perimenopause stage. So it almost feels like I'm kind of starting to go through puberty again, but but womanhood puberty.
Wow. None of us liked puberty, so that's not sounding great.
Yeah, so apparently it starts, you can be in perimenopause up to 10 years before you actually have menopause, up to 10 years before you're in menopause. And symptoms can range from hot flushes, which I've been having for ages, actually. Changes in your cycle as well, which has just started for me, where my cycle has gotten shorter. Also, I guess feeling very emotional, and there's a fine line between understanding it's premenstrual or it's perimenopause hormones. So yeah, kind of there's a lot starting to go on with me, changing. So that's my understanding, or I guess my experience now. Previous to now, I would say that I don't really remember having any conversations about menopause. But I have grown up with people having menopause around me, or in the perimenopause stage, should I say. And actually not understanding what was going on, and only now, as I'm older, thinking, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's what you were going through, you know.
Right.
So just feeling, I guess, a lack of having a lack of understanding about what the other person is going through, the other female is going through, and this is someone in my family, and just not understanding where the moods were coming from, and yeah, the what I perceived to be at the time just the craziness
Right.
in terms of moods.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, I guess a feeling that it kind of reminded me of when I was a teenager, when I was going through my puberty stage, and I was maybe very emotional, and maybe a lot of things to heart, but that was partly because I was quite sensitive at that time. But when this family member was in the perimenopause stage, I now acknowledge and know to be perimenopause stage, I would say that it's pretty much the same kind of emotions, where it's just like, whoa, okay, what's that all about? This person really doesn't like me. This person hates me.
Oh, I shouldn't be laughing because yeah, hormones are a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only in retrospect now that I can kind of understand that, okay, that's what you were going through. And you know, I think with women as well, you know, we're always, our bodies go through a lot, physically and emotionally, and sometimes we cannot identify what it is. And it can be very confusing. You just don't know. You know, I remember, he doesn't mind me saying, but I remember when T was starting, we were in puberty stage, and there was one occasion where she just burst out crying, and I was like, you know, what's wrong? And she was like, I don't know.
Yeah, we've all been there too. Don't worry. Don't feel embarrassed. We've all been there. Yeah.
And I think also the thing about menopause or being perimenopausal is that because your cycles get so disrupted, you might be stopping and starting with your periods. You might not have a period for months at that age yet. And so if you're sexually active, then you actually don't, if your period has stopped, and that's part of the whole perimenopausal thing that you're going through, you can you kind of forget about the fact that you could still be getting, you're still fertile in a, you know, you're still fertile. There is the potential for you to still get pregnant. And you know, you hear stories about people who have gotten pregnant in their perimenopausal stage,
Wow.
who actually didn't think that they could get pregnant because their period had stopped.
Yeah, that's news to my ears as well.
Yeah.
This perimenopause and getting pregnant. You associate the menopause with, okay, now my time is kind of, you know, the time, the window's gone. But actually, you're saying no, that's not true. Perimenopause, you can still very much get pregnant.
Yeah, of course, because you're still in you're still having your cycles. It's just that it's all a bit your body's winding down, but it doesn't mean that you can't conceive.
Right.
And yeah, I think for women that are in that situation, it can be quite a shock when you realize, okay, no, the reason why I haven't had my period is because I'm pregnant, not because not because I'm,
Wow.
perimenopausal, and my period stopped. So yeah.
Wow. That
I think it can be a very confusing time. And
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds very confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could all benefit from women and men as well from having the conversation, because I think men often perhaps don't understand what the females in their family circle and wider circle are going through. So when it's like, the whole cliche about, oh, I have to get out the house because these women I've got a teenage daughter and my wife, and then it's just like I need to get out. But they perhaps actually don't really understand what we're going through, because we don't even speak about it ourselves, and maybe we're not educated about it ourselves either, and we spend I think we've become more mindful about having conversations with our daughters about puberty and about the onset of a period, and all the other things that happen whilst you're in that teen age going up to womanhood, but we kind of miss out a bit miss out a huge chunk of the female experience, of the womanhood experience. So yeah. And I think also, sorry, I'm talking a lot.
It's fine. Go ahead.
We perhaps have to kind of change the tone of the dialogue about menopause, rather than it being about, oh, it dried up, all that kind of stuff, really extreme. I think we need to change it as that it's just another progression into through our womanhood. And it's something we go through, but when you come through it in the end, it's beautiful, because it's a different, you're in a different stage of life. And a lot of women, I know my mum has said anyway that she feels quite liberated being in this stage of life, because she's just liberated. She feels liberated. Not having to every month go to Superdrug or there are other retailers, by the way, to go and get your sanitary towels or tampons, etc. And the whole thing about cramping and stuff like that. But obviously there's the transition is the difficult part, for many women. Night sweats as well. I've had one bout of night sweats, which was quite interesting, because I don't know whether it was to do with me being perimenopausal or whether it was just one of those things. But I couldn't identify what was wrong. I wasn't ill,
right?
But I'd had night sweats. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot to take in, which is good, because like you said, we need to be having these conversations, and I love that you're saying that we need to change the dialogue, because totally, I agree. And we prepare our children up to a certain age, and then there's just this big woof,
Yeah.
Just go out there, and it's not until it comes literally to your doorstep where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a bit different.
Yeah.
That you then start to look into it and be like, oh, am I? And it's only because you're going through it that you're
Yeah.
now trying to work out what's going on with your body. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to wait until then for us to be having these conversations. So, T, would you like to introduce yourself? Just give us a little bit about you, and then I've got a few questions for you.
Okay. I'm Tendai, and I'm 18, and I don't really know what to say.
Well, what are you doing at the moment? Are you studying? What are you up to?
So I'm on a gap year.
Awesome.
But I might go to uni this year, maybe. I don't know. It depends. I'm still deciding. I'm still trying to figure it out. But at the moment, I'm just like, I'm working and I've got an internship as well.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing at the moment.
What's your internship in?
So it's in like marketing and social media.
Hey, so when I need something to come to you, yeah? Oh no, that's a really good industry to be going into. So yeah,
I like it so far.
Yeah. Awesome. So Tendai, tell me, obviously you've just heard Mum talk a bit about the menopause and her experience with it. What's your understanding of the menopause, and also what's your obviously indirect relationship with it? When I say indirect, as in you may have seen Mum, you know, maybe a little bit unhappy, and you might think, oh, what's going on? Like she just said, she thought that, you know, someone in her family hated her because of their emotions. So yeah, what do you understand of menopause, and what's your indirect relationship with it so far?
So all I really know is that it's when your periods stop. But apart from that, like, I don't really know too much about it, because at school and stuff we don't learn about that. And like yeah, I kind of just like, even what I do know about it, it's not from like school or anything. It's kind of just like putting 1 and 2 together, and like I kind of just figured out like, oh, what it was. But yeah, I didn't really know like that much about it. So like my indirect, how, I guess, I don't know, like my mom, she hasn't really like spoken about like menopause to me. So like everything that like might happen with her, like to do with like menopause and stuff, I don't know, I guess I don't think like, oh, it's because of menopause. I just like think, oh, like that's just happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I get you. See, this is interesting because
Exactly.
this is great. That's exactly why I wanted the two of you on together, because for some reason, and it really isn't like intentional, we just seem to miss the family members. Yeah. We'll happily talk to our little circle, but for some reason, we miss the people in our house that, like our daughters, that need to this stuff. And it's quite bizarre because it isn't intentional. It's just something that seems to go over our head. Would you agree, Lucy?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's the whole thing about it not, menopause perhaps not being something that is discussed as discussed the same as everything else that we would go through as women potentially. So when you're a child, you kind of typically you might see a child playing with a dolly, and then you might have conversations about, you know, age appropriate conversations about how babies come into this world. And so from a very young age, girls are kind of, they're aware from a very young age that women go are more of a natural, I think more of a natural progression in terms of the conversations that happen. Okay, so what happens before you go, you have you have a child. Okay, well, in order to have a child, you need to have a period. So then you might be having discussion about that. And then before you have a period, okay, what happens as a female? Kind of, you start, your mum will maybe go shopping with you and get you a trainer bra, and so you're having conversations. But then yeah, the whole menopause, it just drops off. So I think for me, part of the reason why I haven't had that conversation is maybe because I've not really had that conversation with anybody. So it's kind of the only reason now that I'm starting to think about having the conversations. And you're right, I've had it with I've had the conversation with my friends, or I've read books, or I've been watching watching seminars or reading blogs. The only reason is because I'm starting to experience it, and I'm starting to, I guess, become aware of the fact as well that I'm of my fertility stage, as you do when you reach a certain age. And so yeah, you know, I think the benefit for tea, or the thing that I would like to bring forth in my relationships with the young women around me, is to be able to have the conversations whilst I'm going through it. So whether there's somebody that's 11 years old in my circle, or 18 years old in my circle, for them to kind of understand, for me to communicate with them what I'm going through, so they're kind of aware, okay, this is what it is, this is what menopause is, this is why she's acting a bit, you know, out of character, this is why maybe she's, you know, being a bit forgetful, not getting her words
Right.
or getting brain fog and saying things back in front. T is always laughing at me. She'll tell you, she's laughing at me because I will sometimes get my sentences all mixed up. And I'm just like, I don't understand actually why I'm doing it, but at the time, but I know now that that's again part of something that can happen, where you just, things get a bit muddled up in your head. And so you know, what you're trying to articulate comes up all back to front.
See, this is the thing we don't think about. Like, we think about what's happening in the reproductive areas, let's say, but we don't think about what's going on up here as well. Because even in pregnancy, I remember I was just doing weird things, and it's like my husband's laughing at me when I'm dropping. I went through a real clumsy phase, and apparently your alignment is off, so you can be more clumsy. I never knew that the first time I was pregnant. So I was just dropping things, and he would just start laughing. He'd be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, I think I cried, actually. Yeah. There was a time I cried when he laughed at me. Hormones are really challenging. Let's say that. They're very challenging.
And, you know, hormones are really, I don't know, it's fascinating, actually, how hormones affect the your body chemistry, and how it affects your brain. Yeah, it's definitely brought to my attention in this phase, I guess, over the last couple of years, that I need to be having those conversations. I remember another time, actually, when this was way before I started having symptoms for in perimenopause, but I was going through a really rough time. Something was going on in my life, and I was really, really upset, and I was taking it out without actually even realizing. And one of the things that I remember, which really hit me, was that she said, "Well, if you don't talk to me, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know, and I think that it's me. You know, I've done something, and you don't like me. You're upset with me." And we had a really nice chat, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm really sorry what I've been going through, and I've not said anything because I haven't wanted to put any extra pressure or burden on you." I think she was going through, she was preparing for her GCSEs at the time, and maybe that's what happened as well. You know, maybe because we ourselves, or people that I've known in my circle have gone through menopause, because they actually don't really, they're still navigating things themselves. And they know that things are a bit, you know, out of kilter. They don't really know how to have the conversation with the people around them, and actually maybe they don't even know how much of an effect detrimentally they are having on their relationships as well, because we're not talking. Like she said, you know, why don't you just talk to me? Just tell me what's going on.
And that's such a good point, like Tendai, for you to raise that, because it's true, communication is key in every single relationship that we have. And we do often try and play this whole guessing game, or, you know, you need to be a mind reader, which is just, it's just one of those things which is just a bit strange from us, really. But I think everyone's just trying to get on and survive as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you're talking, Lucy, I'm seeing that because you haven't been prepared and it's hit you, it's there, you're going through it, as you said, you're learning what's happening to your body as it's happening.
Yeah.
And therefore you're focused on that and having to cope with that, because there is all the emotions with it. Therefore, those conversations aren't happening.
Yeah.
So, Tendai, I'd like to ask you, what would you say is the ideal way to communicate and educate younger people, or not even, well, anyone who's before the premenopausal, even premenopausal? I didn't even know there was such a thing as perimenopause. What would you say would be a good way to introduce it, and what age would be a good age to have those conversations?
I think probably like the age where you're learning about like puberty and stuff in school, because like I feel like, I don't know, I was just thinking like maybe a reason that like people don't really talk about it is because, like, for example, obviously everyone has like kids at different ages, but like say like you're going through menopause and like your daughter is like in their 20s or something, and like you don't really live together, like as you were saying, I think about the puberty thing, like you can kind of naturally just bring it up in conversation because you're always with like your child at that age. But I feel like when they're a bit older, like sometimes it doesn't really come up in conversation because you might not be like together all the time to be able to just like bring it up out of nowhere. So I feel like maybe when you're at school, that when you're learning about puberty and stuff like that, I feel like that's probably a good age.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's all kind of like in the same category. So yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense, actually, because if you're raising the topic of bodily changes, then it makes sense, because you talk about the bodily changes, you talk about having sexual relationships, and then you know that everything else just kind of, I mean, do they cover pregnancy in school these days? I don't remember.
No, not really, like
Okay.
not into like the scientific bits. I think actually no, in primary school probably a little bit, like learn about like the different stages and like those like diagrams and stuff, but like in GCSEs and stuff it wasn't part of the syllabus. Like even like the menstrual cycle and stuff, that wasn't something that we learned about. Like I think the only time we actually learned about it was literally in primary school.
Right.
So, yeah.
And primary school, you know. I think in primary school. Okay, so we are identifying a gap. Sorry, Lucy, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just like, how can you have it on the syllabus in primary school and then just not have it in secondary school? For me, it doesn't make sense, because you're going through all of that stuff whilst you're in secondary school, and usually it really starts to kick in maybe at the age of, like, the hormones wise, around the age of 12, 13, where it's really, really challenging for the parents as well as the young people. So yeah, I just find that, yeah, totally incongruent. Right.
Yeah. I like that.
Feel like with like school and stuff, like the things that they put on the syllabus, I don't know, like I'm not a teacher or anything, so I don't know, but like I don't think that, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they like line it up with, like, I don't know, I don't feel like they think about that kind of stuff. Like, even because I remember we've like spoken about stuff like how in school they don't teach you about like buying a house or like stuff like that actually apply in real life. So I don't think, like, when it comes to the other things that actually happen like in real life, they don't really like think about that, like especially during GCSE times. It's kind of just like, this is what they want you to learn about to pass your exam, so like that's what you're gonna learn. Like they don't really think about anything else, I think.
Yeah.
I think also one thing about the church, I think, is that there's always, if you're part of the church community, there is always an opportunity for women to get together and have conversations, which is really, really great, because if you find it difficult to have those conversations naturally in the home, then at least if you're in a church community or whichever community that you're involved in, religious community that you're involved in, the women have an opportunity to talk about things that affect women together and learn from each other. But if you're not in that kind of community, then how else do you have those conversations if they're not naturally coming up? And I think the only way is to, you really have to just be really mindful about it and make the effort to spend time with the females in your family and in your wider circle, whether that's, you know, having lunch dates, tea dates with your nieces, with your daughters, with your aunties, you know, making a conscious effort to have that time and talk about things freely.
Yeah.
You know, really kind of have those deep conversations, as well as have the fun, you know, the more light-hearted, should I say, conversations.
No, absolutely. As the two of you were speaking, it just made me realize that even more so as mothers and as aunties, whatever relationship you have with younger females in your family, it's really down to us to educate. We can't depend on the school system. And to be honest, it's so much more special, I'd say, isn't it, to have that inside your family. So really, Lucy and myself, we need to up our games, really, and start having these conversations so that the next generations can come up and know what to expect, rather than it hit them and it be it's already an emotional situation. So there's going to be emotion on top of emotion, because now it's a coping situation as well. Yeah. What is happening to me? Why am I feeling this way? Is that normal? Even you saying, does it mean I'm pregnant, or is it because I'm perimenopausal? There'll be so much going through your head. If we had these conversations, then Tendai, when she gets to whatever age it is, when she goes perimenopausal, she'll be like, oh, okay. My mum told me about this. Right, make a doctor's appointment. You're already knowing what to expect. And that can give so much more peace and so much more calm. And society probably wouldn't be so, you know, about it. And it is a normal, natural thing. So it's just, I think it's really important that as of now we change the dialogue, like you said, and make it an everyday conversation. So I'm going to challenge you two then.
Absolutely.
to have that conversation, and I'm sure it will be an amazing one. You're laughing.
Yeah, and
yeah, to have that conversation.
It's going to be an ongoing.
Sorry, repeat that again. I can hear you, Lucy.
Said,
but
it's going to be an ongoing. Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those conversations that's going to be ongoing. And like you said, you know, it's a challenge it's a challenge which I relish, because I love spending time with my daughter, and in those, you know, more deliberate moment, you know, where you going out to a restaurant or something like that. I don't think we've done a spa together yet, have we? We've done a spa. No. So yeah, you know, doing more things such as that. There was this program that I watched ages ago, and it was called The Red Tent, and it's based on it's based on the biblical. It had biblical characters in it, and I think Dinah was one of the characters in this. And the Red Tent was apparently this place. I'm not actually sure if this is factual, because this was like fictional, based with a fictional story with biblical characters in it. Yeah. And all the women, when one of the women was menstruating, all the women went into the Red Tent, which they were probably in the Red Tent quite a lot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when they enjoyed the time in the Red Tent, because this was a time where they could just be themselves totally, and have conversations and laugh together and cry together, you know, whatever they've been going through in the past month or whatever, get advice from each other. It was an opportunity. It's the way that the film was showed that it was you had all age groups of women in this, girls underneath this Red Tent. So the children were privy to the conversation that the women were having, and there was nothing that was hidden from them, you know. Yeah. So sometimes as well, maybe what we do is because we're so conscious about having age appropriate conversations, is that sometimes what we do is shutting down necessary information that is for the youngsters. So obviously you gauge, you still gauge, you still have a gauge of what you really want to discuss, how much you want to discuss in front of the youngster. But I think having the conversations at least, so that they have the opportunity to ask questions. That's what was revealed to me in that in that film. It was a docu-series? It was a mini series, The Red Tent. It was really good. It was really good. Yeah.
I have to check that out.
Yeah,
because it is a thing. It's not as women, as females, we're gonna face it. So and it's so community, what you mentioned before, is so important. We need people to talk to. Equally, we need to be having these conversations within our families as well. So if anyone has any questions or any comments, you are more than welcome to write them in the comments box below. And thank you guys who have, you know, been interacting with us over the course of this conversation. So Tendai, we've spoken about our kind of indirect experience with the menopause. And obviously, Mum's given us a little bit of insight into what she's experienced so far. Would you say it would be worth having a conversation on the science behind menopause, to actually know what happens, roughly when it happens, and why?
Yeah, because I feel like it'll probably help you like understand it a bit more, like knowing why it actually happens and like the science behind it. Yeah, I feel like that would be useful.
Yeah. Okay, because I'm thinking there needs to be another part to this series. So I'll have to do a menopause, what you experienced during menopause. And just before we go, one more thing, because Lucy, you've mentioned being perimenopausal. I'm sure there's loads of people that have no idea what perimenopause even means. So I know for me, I'm like, you hear about hot flushes. I had a hot flush the other day, and I'm just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because that doesn't necessarily mean it's menopausal, but it might do. Do you know what I mean? So I hear hot flushes, and that's always associated with menopause. And like Tendai said, it's when your periods stop. But what is perimenopausal?
I think, oh, I've got a bit of feedback there. I think perimenopausal, I would say, is when your body's gearing up for, or winding down. Actually, your reproductive system, I guess, is winding down, and that's, I guess, yes, hot flushes are not the only indicator. I think when you're getting a combination of things going on, you're like, okay, well, maybe this is what is going on. And for me, the biggest indicator has been the change in my cycle, and that happened recently. So I would be expecting in the next few years that that's just going to continue, and it will become a bit more erratic. Sometimes maybe I'll have long cycles, and sometimes I'll have shorter cycles. Recently, my cycles have started to get shorter.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, what's this all about? Oh, okay, this is what happens when your body's getting ready for menopause. when your body's getting ready to stop having a period.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a combination of things to be aware of.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for for clearing it up for me.
My internet is a bit...
Have we still got you? There you go, you're back.
My internet.
And one other thing, I promise I'll end it there. You mentioned men, and you said how, when they just need to get out of the house because they've got a wife and a teenage daughter, so the hormones are flying. But question, do you think having a conversation with a man is going to be effective?
I think they need to be aware of what is going on. So not necessarily, I think having a conversation with a man is effective, especially if, if that man is your husband or partner, then absolutely, because, there's so many other things that happen with, which affects men, that's happening to you, but it's affecting them. So, your libido, for example, all those things change, and, just being really maybe snappy and hormonal in that sense.
Yeah.
Know what's going on. They're just like, where's my wife? This is not her. But so yeah, definitely, absolutely. Because if they don't know what's going on, how are they meant to help? How are they meant to support you? How are they meant to understand that it's not them, it's just what you're going through, and that you still love them as well, yeah, and all the things, the things about hot flush, stuff like that, lifting the covers off and putting them back on, and just being tossing and turning because you're all, you're hot, and in 1 minute you're cold. That affects them as well. They're missing out on sleep, and they're just like, what's going on here?
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay, fair enough then. So it really seems like we need to be having conversations with everybody. Oh dear. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining this afternoon. It's been really lovely. Tendai, you've opened up my mind a lot to the fact that schools are not really, you know, covering these things, and how we, as parents, we need to do that bit extra. So thank you for that. And yeah, so I'll have to do another one then and talk about the science behind it as well. And if there are any young women who want to know more about things as well, then, you know, just message me and I will aim to have another womanhood series based on that area. So yeah, so thank you so much. Have an amazing afternoon. Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you for being with us, honestly. And yeah, we will catch up soon. All right, take care, guys.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.